Welcome on in. Coder Radio program is just starting up. Episode 547 is getting ready. Mr. Dominic is en route. Our chat room is opening up. Coder.show/matrix. Get in there. In fact, let's start the Chidlebot. Boom. Titlebot has been started. So please do get in there and bang suggest as we go along. Now, while we get ready for the show, I have a couple of clips I want to play us. We won't be talking much about AI this week, but that doesn't mean the mainstream media isn't talking about AI. Some scare porn coming up from NBC News. This came out 16 hours ago on NBC News.
This is not Joe Rogan selling men's health supplements.
If you go to Amazon and you type in libido booster for men, you're going to find it right at the top.
This is not Warren Buffett giving away free Bitcoin.
I don't have much time left to live. That's why I decided to organize a giveaway.
And that is definitely not Elon Musk giving people an opportunity to get rich quick.
Absolutely everyone can earn it. Everything is very simple.
Welcome to the misleading future, where celebrity product pitches you see online
Watching this video, you're one of the 10,000 lucky people who'll get an iPhone 15 Pro.
may be scams. Stars like Tom Hanks and Gayle King now warning their followers about fake versions of themselves, also known as deep fakes.
More tools have been coming out that make it easier and easier for just about anybody to do deep fakes.
It's so easy, the team at Slack Shack Films did it to me.
What is the secret to weight loss?
I've honestly been a bit hesitant to share this with you, but I think now it's time.
It looks really
The
fake.
secret is chocolate cake.
It looks really fake, first of all. This is just kind of an ad for this company's tag, and it doesn't look good.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Copious amounts of chocolate cake. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, brunch, afternoon snack.
I think you could have made this seem a little more real if you would have put this over like a video call, like a Zoom session or a crappy like FaceTime call. And then I would have thought maybe he's got like some sort of artificial blurred background and you could have lowered the quality a little bit of the picture. But here I can clearly tell that's just CG.
Chocolate cake.
Man.
There it is.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Here's how they did it. They had an actor play the part of me and then using AI digitally replaced his voice and altered his image to create a fake Jake.
Oh, yeah, just anybody can do that. Just anybody can hire an actor and then use extremely professional tools, very specialized tools, to replace their face and voice. Anybody can do that. I mean, they started the premise of this entire thing as these are tools available to anybody. That is how they started the premise of this. And now we're down to, well, you got to put them on a green screen. You got to film an actor, a stand-in actor who has the rough same body shape as the person you're trying to impersonate. Then you got to bring it in and use specialized tools to like CG their face to the deep fake you want. And then you got to use a totally different set of programs to like generate their voice. You better have good sample data for that, by the way, which I'm sure anybody has access to. And then generate that voice and then edit it to match the lips. Anybody can do that.
Part of me and then using AI digitally replaced his voice and altered his image to create a fake Jake.
A full chocolate cake diet will absolutely make you lose weight.
It is not perfect, but if you're scrolling through on your phone,
It looks like a real person, honestly.
There are going to be bad actors out there who take the stuff and monetize it and do bad things with it.
Yeah, like the media is doing right now. That's exactly what they're doing right now.
Professor Hani Farid studies deepfakes at UC Berkeley
And so it turns out that yours are a pretty good biometric.
and warns it's not just being used for fake sales pitches.
All around the world now. Yeah, you're seeing interference and disinformation campaigns. And
Disinformation campaigns. Oh, yeah. I mean, I do see Chrome.exe there in that list on a Windows box. That is pretty scary. They got Chrome.exe in a scrolling window next to this guy. Man, boy, this is a pretty bad situation. What an existential crisis for civilization.
Sales pitches.
all around the world now. Yeah, you're seeing interference and disinformation campaigns and fraud.
This guy's he's an expert in accurate information. He is aware of what is actually 100% accurate and what is misinformation and is able to actually make that assessment, which is really fortunate because not very many people in the world would have that wealth of knowledge or expertise. But this one individual apparently does, as per his assertions.
All around the world now. Yeah, you're seeing interference and disinformation campaigns and fraud.
Already we've seen fake videos of Ukrainian President Zelensky, even a fake attack on the Pentagon.
Oh, no,
In
not a Photoshop.
2 minutes, the stock market dropped $500 billion. That's insane from a single image.
Maybe that has more to do with the fact that the stock market's wired up like a Christmas tree, using a bunch of bots to do automated trading. Maybe it has more to do with the stock market than it does a photoshopped image of smoke coming out by the White House.
How to spot a deep fake? Well, that's hard.
No, so all of these have been really easy to spot.
Slow down. Don't just reshare something that feels real to you.
Yeah, don't just reshare misinformation, you idiot.
Search online for the image you're seeing. If it's fake, someone out there probably knows. And check your sources. If you don't recognize where it came from, don't trust it.
Yeah, if it comes from NBC News, watch out.
But here's the thing. With technology advancing so quickly, Professor Fareed warns those tips won't last.
In 3 months, they won't work.
Thank you for having me.
Jake Ward, NBC News, San Francisco.
Okay. All right. Well, it's not all great news. It seems the Google team is going to miss their OKRs. Gemini, their new AI to challenge ChatGPT, that's right, I guess Bard isn't it, has been delayed. Yeah, it's been delayed.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Today's Executive Edge. Let's talk about it. Google now reportedly postponing the launch of public AI system Gemini. This according to some tech industry websites, but in particular, The Information has a new report on it. CEO Sundar Pichai is pushing back the timeline since Gemini has proven unreliable with questions not posed in English. The public launch now reportedly set for sometime next month. So we'll see how it compares, if you will, to ChatGPT version 4.0.
He's got something going on with his eyeball there. That was weird. All right, one last little tech market update, because that is going to come up in Coder, and then I think it's showtime.
Liz, it's the worst day since October 26th, and now you have another big-name seller of mega-cap tech. Mark Zuckerberg filing to sell $185 million of Meta shares in November. That is the first time in a couple of years. This follows Bezos, remember, selling millions of Amazon shares November 15th and the 16th. That was $240 million. NVIDIA insiders selling or filing to sell. That according to Bloomberg. So is tech too toppy?
Well, maybe they have big purchases to make. I mean, we don't really know what the motivation is. They want to take some gains.
Maybe they think a recession's coming, and this is the top.
I've thought that tech was toppy all year. So I think the answer to that for me right now is yes, but I'm not going to ignore the fact that the market has been strong and that this rally has been almost unrelenting. So we're at a time where I think you don't necessarily fight it. It probably exhausts itself. I don't know that today is the beginning of that exhaustion, but as rates have come down, it's given a lot of steam to this rally. It's given a lot of steam.
Wait. Rates haven't come down. Rates are projected to come down.
But as rates have come down, it's given a lot of steam to this rally. It's given a lot of steam to growth stocks. And that may continue as we sit in this I don't know period between are we going to have more contraction in the economy? Are we going to see a time when rate cuts come closer into view? They continue to come closer into view. But are rate cuts going to actually cause a problem, which honestly is usually the case?
Why should you own Meta and Amazon? It is notable that Zuckerberg's selling for the first time in 2 years. The Bezos number, which was reported, was $240 million, though Faber reported at the time that it could end up being a lot more than that. It just raises the issue with the NVIDIA thing, too, because NVIDIA is up 209% year to date. Meta's up 162. Now, Amazon's up 71. So those are the three best performing of the mega cap names year to date. And it just makes us wonder whether these stocks have gotten too toppy, whether they're too rich. Their valuations are dramatically ahead of not only the equal weight S&P, but the S&P 500 itself. How would you address that?
Well, you do have to sit up and take notice when they sell it. And then you go and look, and I went and I looked at Zuckerberg's holdings today. It's a pimple. It's really nothing. He's got so much more stock there that you can't blame them. You never know why they're selling. He's actually very charitable. Has a big foundation.
I'll note, just a quick sidebar, this guy has been so historically inaccurate on his analysis. I don't know why they have him on. I was just watching clips last night that go back to 2011, and him just like missing call after call. So, I don't know. Some people they just keep going to because they know how to do the on-air thing. I don't really know what the explanation is. But back and forth, they don't really know, of course, why the tech execs are selling stock. Especially the Zuckerberg one's interesting, right? After 2 years, you got to wonder if they feel like maybe we're at a market top right now. It'd be nice, actually, to have a little recovery. The last 18 months have been pretty bad. Gold's up to... I mean, it's kind of nice to see. It's kind of nice to see it. But there's a lot of bear sentiment out there, I think. And, usually you just follow the money. That's usually all it takes. All right, last chance to get in the chat room before the show starts. Coder.show/matrix for that. You can use the Element web client. Just do a little search for that. Little Element web client action, and then you can get in there and help title this thing. Okay, this story just came out. Okay, I'm going to play one more thing. It's not going to be very interesting, but just because it's relevant. So that gal in that clip said that, with the rate cuts, like she's talking about the rate cuts like they've already happened, even though they're only being projected by the market. Well, this morning, just an hour ago, Fed officials are warning the market, don't expect the rate cuts as soon as you're forecasting.
It is the Federal Reserve versus the stock market. Stocks pulling back this morning as doubts creep in over the prospects for a U.S. interest rate cut. Wall Street sees interest rate cuts by next May, with the possibility they happen as soon as March. But that doesn't align with public statements from most Fed officials in recent weeks. Let's bring in Yahoo Finance's Jen Schonberger for more on this story.
Jen.
And Jen, there's always this constant push and pull between where the markets are and the Fed is. And the Fed chair last week kind of going out of his way to set expectations.
Yep, that's right. The Fed's still trying to decide whether they've reached the peak on rates, but Wall Street already pricing in rate cuts as soon as March. Investors betting that falling inflation and the expectation that the economy will slow markedly will cause the Federal Reserve to cut rates. Take a look at the CME Fed funds futures this morning. They were pricing in a 53% chance of a rate cut in March. Flip to May, and some are already starting to price in another rate cut on top of that as well. But the Fed may not cut rates as soon as investors think. Fed officials last week suggested they are intent to hold rates higher for longer. Fed Chair Jay Powell tried to warn markets on Friday to no avail that, quote, it would be premature to conclude with confidence that we've achieved a sufficiently restrictive stance or to speculate on when policy might ease. He said, we're prepared to tighten policy further if it becomes appropriate to do so. Also last week, we heard from New York Fed President John Williams on rate cuts, calling them a hypothetical, something that's far off in the future. Fed officials worry that if they were to put out language that they are even finished raising rates or to talk about rate cuts, that could loosen financial conditions, making their fight to bring inflation back down to 2% in a timely manner a much more longer battle.
Yeah, so here's what's going on. Is the Fed's credibility is sort of on the line here. What I think, and I don't know S about F, but what I think is happening is the market is betting that recession-like conditions, even just softening and weakening, will force the Fed to start reducing the rate probably in May. What the market does, they are front-running that news. Well, they were. They're slowing down with the Fed's warning. But the market is front-running that news. And in the case of Bitcoin, there's three strong narratives right now that are causing the price to rip. And that would be the ETFs. There's a dozen ETFs that are pending approval for early January. BlackRock and Fidelity being some of the standout. There's the halving in April. The issuance of Bitcoin will be cut in half that the miners receive. So supply on the market will tighten. Scarcity will go up. And then you have the potential, that's in April. And then you have the potential in May-ish, that's what the market is betting, that the interest rates go down. If interest rates go down, money becomes cheaper, money starts flowing, risk assets go up, tech assets go up, gold goes up, silver goes up, etc. And so, the apes out there are just front-running that news right now. Yeah, I did see this. We're going to touch on the Spotify news. Welcome into the chat room. Bot Genie is asking if we saw about the Spotify news. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a... Do they have audio on that story? Because we could play that to get everybody listening up to speed if they're not familiar. This is their third round of layoffs this year. They don't have audio on that story. That's too bad. I'm surprised, now that I think about it, I'm surprised I didn't see this on any of the financial video streams this morning. I'm going to have to double check that. Seems like something that would get covered, right? Reuters covered it. Yahoo Finance covered it. I wonder if Yahoo Finance is usually pretty mid, but let's check it out.
It is time now for our chart of the day. Spotify preparing to yet again pare back its staff, cutting.
Oh yeah, and this shows you the state of the market. Look at that. They're up 7, almost 8% on the news of layoffs. They're for the third time this year, and the market is rewarding them.
17% of employees in the third round of layoffs this year. Like many tech companies, Spotify saw explosive staffing growth during the pandemic. Headcount more than doubled during the past 3 years, with investors more focused on profitability than growth. Spotify has...
How am I doing on my levels?
Oh, you sound pretty good.
Okay, I had a little kid. My little man was sitting at my desk. And you know how that can be.
Yeah, microphones and buttons, they're fun to play with.
Yes, they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I understand. I like playing with them, too. Can't really blame them. I enjoy it. Well, hello over there. Hi.
Hi.
I think we're ready. After the show, if you remember, or maybe offline, we should probably start chatting about our holiday schedule, because I think Coder lands on Christmas and New Year's this year.
Well, it is a very holy podcast.
Yeah, so. Yeah, we'll get. You know what we'll do is we'll just set up microphones in the living room. It's going to be a lean Christmas in the Fisher household this year. I don't think the kids are. I have pre-warned the kids, but I don't think they've really internalized it. You know what I mean?
Yes, I had to have a similar conversation with a young lady about her spending.
Yeah,
teenagers, you give them that card just for emergencies, and then
My issue is the in-app stuff is getting really bad. And
so
they live on.
We
their
should save
iPad.
this for the show, because
right.
my man Reese got his butt kicked for an astronomical Minecraft charge. Like, even I thought it was obscene, and I'm used to my $15, $20 martinis. So that's, yeah.
All right, I'm making a note.
That should maybe be the icebreaker. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, make it. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. All right, you ready, chat room? You got to bang suggest. You got to bang suggest as we go, because it is time for us to record, and we need your titles. But you do sound better this week.
I don't believe you.
No, you do.
Yeah, I feel significantly better. It's gonna stick with me for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Hello, Drew. Hello, Drew. Nice to be with you. Mr. Dominic, jump in at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
Yes. Oh, my God. Oh, Todd. Oh, my God. I know that pain. All right. Here we go. It's coder time. Please bang suggest. My God. In 3, 2. I lied. Now it's coder time. This is Coder Radio, episode 547 for December 4th, 2023. Hey friend, welcome in to Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the world of technology. My name is Chris, and joining us and feeling much better this week, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hey, Mike.
I am healed, kind of.
Mostly. Other than the bit that'll stick in your lungs for the next few weeks, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I know it's right. You're sliding right into the holidays, so like the probability of the kids getting sick, thus you getting sick, is going way up. And it's been a rough couple of years of that already. And I've been telling the kids, like, you got to stay healthy and you got to brace yourself. It's going to be a little bit leaner Christmas. You know what? And I try to explain inflation to them, but I think they just glaze over.
Well, they told you that you're wrong. The economy's great. I literally was listening to. Well, I don't want to slag off the wrong podcast, but it was one of the financial podcasts. It wasn't I think it was Planet Money from NPR, and they had this guy on, this presenter, and his whole argument was, "There's nothing wrong with the economy. You're all just depressed."
Yeah.
Now, Chris, as a married man, when a problem by the missus is presented to you, how effective, right, is saying,
"This is your problem, honey. I don't know what your deal is. This
Right.
is your problem. You're clearly wrong about this. You're lying eyes."
For example, let's take something, non-cancelable here. No, honey, you're not cold. You're just in your head.
Right.
Yes, good luck with that. That is what we're supposed to think about the economy. Although my son has not been held back by any economic constraints. We're going to play a little game about how much in the last 45 days has been charged on my Xbox Live account.
Oh, goodness.
For just Minecraft purchases.
Oh, man.
That were made without my knowledge.
See, my point of reference is App Store pricing, and I would imagine things might be slightly more expensive.
They sure are.
Yeah. $120?
Low.
I'm low?
Oh, way low.
Way low. $800?
High. So it was
Okay.
roughly $650.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
I'm in the process of trying to get Microsoft to at least reverse a good portion of that.
That's like a good solid 2.5, 3 trips to the grocery store here in Washington State.
Yeah, it's kind of sneaky because now, I put all the parental controls on, so not doing anything on that Xbox is a pain in the butt.
Yes. Yeah.
But the interface that Minecraft uses is awfully I don't know. So it's a little much, right? Like there's a lot of shiny stuff going on. There's a lot of like animations, and he legitimately didn't realize he was spending real money. So
I think I've noticed a new Roblox scam. There is such an opportunity on that platform. We really should have focused in on that, man. We could be making so much money, just running scams against kids that got their parents' Apple account on file. So, say you have one of these games where you convince kids to buy every iteration of an animal. This one's got a rainbow, this one's got a red hat, so you got to have them both, even though they're the same thing. They just rendered a different hat, even though then they'll run that game into the ground because they're always rife with fraud and scams. But what they do now is a little switcheroo where they launch like the next version as a whole new game inside the Roblox platform, and you got to buy everything all over again.
Yeah.
Tell you what.
I understand there's like developers who all they do is make like Roblox. I don't know if the appropriate term is skins.
Skins, yeah.
Skins,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
But I think they're making real money.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of account stealing going on. I mean, once a week somebody tries to steal my kid's account.
Yeah, that sounds...
I've gotten pretty good at detecting it now, so in some ways it's kind of there is a silver lining, I suppose. But it's not just belt tightening for you and I. Today, as we go on the air, Spotify announced they're laying off 17%. It's like 1 in 5 people in their workforce.
Brutal.
This is the third round of layoffs in 2023 alone for Spotify. So it's about 25% of their entire staff this year. They just laid off most of their podcast division about a month and a half ago or something like that. And, of course, the perverse thing is like their stock's almost up 5% on the news because the market loves this, loves seeing this. Companies love layoffs in the holidays.
Yes, it's kind of...
perverse?
Perverse.
Evil?
I would say like firing people around Christmas. It's just something you shouldn't do. I have never wanted to do it.
Well, somebody should have sent that memo to Broadcom because they're laying off 2,800 folks from the VMware acquisition.
Oh, yeah.
And then they've also put off that gentleman's layoff agreement, essentially, where they just say, quote, their CEO, the new CEO, their new boss, said, get your butt back into the office or else. Essentially, they're going to fire you with cause if you don't get back in there. Apple is cutting contractors in Austin. This is all just in the last couple of weeks. Twilio, I think, announced today or yesterday, they're cutting 5% of their workforce. Unity is laying off 4% of their staff. Today, the CBC TV and radio up in Canada is laying off around 700 employees. That's just like in the last couple of days.
And the stock prices are bubbling up.
I think it's the Federal WARN Act, at least for companies here in the States, because under the Federal WARN Act, companies with 100 or more employees that are planning a large layoff have to provide staff with 60 days notice. That's how we even found out about the VMware layoffs. They haven't actually made a public statement, but they have had to file WARN notices. Now, some states have more stringent rules like 90-day notices and stuff like that. But if a company fails to provide minimum required notice, like say you're getting let go in 30 days or without cause, they have to provide you with pay and benefits for the warning period, which is often why they seem like they're so generous with the pay, because they kind of have to because of federal law, especially if they don't give you the full notice.
Yes. Unlike in Florida, where the notice is you hear the gator coming.
Yeah, and and here it's the volcano erupting or the ginormous earthquake or a tsunami. I think why I say maybe the WARN Act has something to do with this is because if you look at the time constraints this puts on employers and they're looking at their next fiscal year, I think it ends up where they want to start the next year with a clean slate, or they want to, by the time Q1, this is the way the businesses think, by the time Q1 is over, we want to have digested all of these changes. And in order to accomplish that and provide these people with enough notice, as per the Federal WARN Act requires, we end up seeing layoffs in December. And I think it's just gross. But I think it's a combination of companies being a bit heartless about it, because, they could do these in November or October, with a little bit of regulations that kind of force their hand. If they're going to get this done, they have to do it around this time in order for it to be clear by next year. That's my bacon about it. I don't know if that's true or not, but
I'm kind of mixed on this. I think layoffs are not great. I think layoffs literally the first week of December is super pricky. But is it not true that some of these companies were bloated? Like Spotify seems like they were bloated, right? Although the drunk money they spent.
Pandemic hiring, yes, Spotify in particular.
I guess I would also criticize the drunk money they spent on like the Obamas and Joe Rogan for all that podcast stuff. But I hear your bacon. Is there nobody like in the C-suite of these companies that's like, hey man, I have kids, they have kids. Maybe let's not like make mom or dad have that really stressful, how am I going to buy a sufficient amount of Christmas stuff?
A company of 5 people where things change rapidly, I could understand like, oh crap, things have gone really south really fast. But a company Spotify size or larger, Apple or Broadcom, Unity, they must have a sense this is coming by, say, October. They must know. But maybe it just takes so long to put it all together and cover their legal butts. But it just seems like this is a lot easier of a pill to swallow in October or hell, even early November than it is in December, days before Christmas. And I can't believe they don't think of the PR impact of this, because we see you and we'll remember this. Like, what are you doing? Think about it. Apple is tidy with the contractors, right? Because it's not technically Apple doing the layoffs.
Apple's like, sucks to be you.
Yeah, it's the contracting company. Now, I know you have a little ditty to get into about Xcode this week. And so I plucked an Xcode rant from the Matrix to start us up. But before we go there, I just want to give a heads up to everybody real soups quick. Linux Fest Northwest 2024 has officially been announced. It'll be April 26th through the 28th in Bellingham, Washington. And we are working to have it back at the original spot, but we'll see. We may have a couple of creative things, but we do have a call for speakers out right now, 30-minute, 90-minute, full-day workshops even, and a call for sponsors. I will put links to that stuff in the show notes. This is a fantastic event. We try to make it every year. I've been going for 20 plus years. The mini fest was a huge success, so I think that's really going to set up some nice momentum for the main fest in April. And it's also just a beautiful time to come to the Pacific Northwest. So it's pretty great. Linux Fest Northwest 2024. Ready or not, here we come. And I think it's going to be a good one. Now, Mr. Dominic, and again, links to all that in the show notes. I want to read this. Pirate Byte Ninja in the Matrix shared this. This is a little bit old, but I went and grabbed it because I knew this was coming up on the show today. I think he's looking for us to talk him down. He says, I'm thinking about dropping Mac support. On Windows, I write a game. I build it on Windows. I run it on Windows. It's fine. For Linux, I tend to build a dev VM. I compile inside that VM for Linux. It works. For the Mac, well, first I have to buy a $900-ish Mac, then pay Apple $100 for the key, and then I have to compile the whole damn thing inside of Xcode, which is dog crap, and I hate it. And when it breaks, I have to do the whole thing all over again. And this is for like 0.2% of my users. Should I even be bothering? Do you have any wisdom you want to share? Do you want to save it for your bit later? I'm just curious, kind of queuing us up for the Xcode discussion. If you have any wisdom.
It's obviously got to make sense financially, whatever you're doing. So if the Mac is not providing enough revenue to actually matter, and if you don't have so many existing Mac users that you think it'll be like some kind of reputational problem, then drop it, right? I mean, the folks that I'm working with now, all the wrong games, they have iOS and Mac, and I'm doing a lot of iOS stuff, right? Supporting another platform is a lot of work and expensive. And
can I ask you something?
Mm-hmm.
So Apple's got that game and development environment that's essentially kind of like Proton under the hood. If that became something pretty solid, do you think it'd be a reasonable thing to target? So instead of necessarily targeting macOS, you kind of target that Proton environment. I know it's kind of not the same, but imagine if there was sort of that Steam Proton play environment that became, like it works on Linux, became available on macOS. Might that be a more viable solution, even though it's turtles all the way down in terms of API emulations and whatnot? But it still seems like...
If it had the level of support as Linux Proton, sure. Right? I mean, if I was developing my own game and I had to support Linux, I would be super tempted to just not, right, and make sure it's okay with Proton. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean...
I'd say to the audience, boost or write in, does it seem reasonable? Like, would that be a satisfiable answer to you as a Mac user if essentially they just took the open source Proton code and got it all working on the Mac? Maybe it's even Valve that does it. Would that be a suitable answer for you as a Mac user? Would you be okay essentially installing Windows games on your Mac like us Linux users are doing?
I mean, I would love to. I mean, could I just answer the question?
Yeah, for you, I'd love to know. I'd like them to answer too, but
I mean, I have this big problem with I'm working on Alderon that the tooling on Mac sucks. And my compile times are super high. I'm super slow. Obviously, I'm learning Unreal, so that slows me down too. But Xcode doesn't even do syntax highlighting right for this stuff.
All right, well, let's get into it. So stand by. Everybody head over to alderon.games/coder. They are hiring for remote jobs, including folks specifically that listen to this here show. Maybe you could help Matt. Maybe you could help Mike out. All right, so give it to me. How bad has it been? First of all, tell me about your setup. Remind me, you're on a new MacBook, right? For this,
I'm on the last generation MacBook Pro.
The M2.
Let me see.
It's newish. I know it's not the M3, but
Yeah, it's the M2 Max, 96 gigs of RAM.
Okay.
Blah blah blah.
All right.
So it's just not. This is a huge project, so it kind of makes sense. But the real issue, right? I can live with compile times that require me to go make a cup of tea and do something else. That's fine. But the fact that Xcode can't suggest completions for some reason for this code base, the syntax highlighting is wrong. I have an issue right now before we got on the show where how you have the compiler macros. That's if, it's if
sure.
is Mac or if is whatever Linux. Xcode consistently highlights them in reverse, meaning it shows the code that's actually not going to be run because I'm doing the iOS or some iOS stuff as off. It just straight up lies to you. And this is, by the way, for folks who don't know, Xcode is the preferred editor on macOS for Unreal, according to Unreal, right? According to Epic Games. So just the experience sucks, such that if it ever shows up, I'm ordering a Threadripper from System 76 to install Windows 11 on, so I can try to work in Visual Studio. It's just lousy. I mean, it's lousy in a really dumb way, right? Because Xcode maybe we should take a step back. The language for Unreal games is C++. When you bring in the Apple stuff, you can commingle Objective-C, right? Because C++ and Objective-C can hang out. But you got to watch out because you got to make sure you cordon that off to only run on iOS and Mac. But Xcode very proudly supports C++, except not in this case for some reason.
Man, that's infuriating.
It's awful. I mean, I've done builds where I sit there, wait for it to build, and realize I spelt like Path of Titans wrong, like I typoed something. And so, the whole thing breaks, but I have to sit there for however long till it just like breaks at the end. There is a answer to this, right? I could simply buy a better Mac.
I mean, dude, that's a decent Mac. M2
Yeah,
Max,
I've never had a machine
96
this
gigs
powerful.
of RAM, super fast disk.
Yeah, and that is a good point. Real-time updates. So Matt from Alderaan apparently is listening live and is sending me DMs. Apple, he makes a good point. Apple did rip out OpenGL because they love their sweet, sweet lock-in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would
and
they punish you?
They didn't embrace Vulkan either. You know what I try to think about is what do the next 2 years look like for Xcode? And it's gonna
nightmare.
It's gonna be a nightmare. Because they're going to be, if the leaks are correct, they're going to be ramming in their own large language model into this thing, trying to totally revamp the autocomplete / IntelliSense type stuff.
They need to do what Microsoft did a few years ago. And it's so funny because I haven't really touched Visual Studio proper in a long time until, maybe here and there, but like working on the Alderaan stuff. I tried it out on an underpowered Lenovo. They've done a great job with Visual Studio. To the point of I'm living in envy of Windows now, which is a sick place for me to be.
How things have changed.
Well, if you think about it, though, I want to get my job done, right? I don't want to be the slowest pony in the stables, and it's very frustrating to not have. I've become spoiled. I'm used to syntax highlighting. I'm used to, I hit dot after a variable name. I want to see the list of available functions. I don't want to have to go to, ChatGPT or to the Unreal documentation and how do I convert the string into a UTF-8 string again for the 400th time that I can't remember? So, and that is a simple thing that, frankly, VS Code does a better job. I've tried that out. And because Copilot figures it out, right? Like it's
almost inexplicable that Apple hasn't been able to make this better. And that's why
I've never really invested a whole lot.
I imagine that's going to be the next couple of years, and I think it's going to be horrible. They might even, Final Cut Pro 10 this thing.
Well, they even made it shittier, right? Because Xcode used to at least have community plugins.
Yeah.
I'm going way back to ancient iOS development here.
Yeah.
But, the package manager Carthage, a lot of folks used to use. I was more of a CocoaPods guy, but whatever. You could install a plugin and it would be right there in Xcode. It was a precursor to the Swift package manager. People had extensions for Interface Builder when it was a separate app to do kind of like templated interfaces. I remember I don't think I can say the name of the startup because they're gone now, but this was a very design intensive place. They contracted with me as an iOS developer, and they had a very specific type of UI that everything needed to be, and they just developed their own Zib. We're going way back here, right? Their own Zib template for Interface Builder as an extension, and you could go in and be like, I want one of these. And there's like a menu of like 4 or 5, and their whole app was those. How much time that saves? No, but Apple says no more extensions to Xcode.
You don't need that.
Yeah.
Listen, you should be grateful. You are getting to publish on their excellent hardware and their excellent OS through their excellent app store that they made. And they are the envy of the tech world. You should be grateful, Mike. Jeez,
I mean, the hardware
figure it
is
out.
great. It's we talk about it every couple of months when I decide to play with my iPad. That is an awesome machine that is inexplicably held back by policy decisions that make no sense.
Well, everybody would love to be able to make those policy decisions. It seems
Yes.
Activision Blizzard had a plan or a ploy to launch its own Android game store. Now, the reason why this is notable is it was also used as a negotiating leverage technique with Google to kind of get a backdoor Google ad rev deal. And these are all coming out because of court cases and then emails and then testimony. So Activision was hoping that that if everything worked out, they would either A, get a sweetheart deal from Google, or B, create their own app store that they would launch on Android in like a really low-key, soft launch way, slowly add features to, and then they would attempt to do the same thing on the iPhone. The, quote, end state goal, according to the documents, was to put Activision and Blizzard and King's titles and some third-party games on Android first, with iOS to follow. But if they got a sweet deal from Google, they were going to scrap their plans, and that's exactly what happened. Google signed a deal worth more than $100 million. But the implication in these documents is that Activision Blizzard kind of let it leak. They kind of let it be known that they were working on an app store. So that way Google would come to the table and negotiate.
What? Bobby Kotick do something shady? No.
And it makes you wonder if Apple also caught wind of it.
I don't think Apple cares.
Well, perhaps, but as you know, Microsoft's trying to gobble up Activision Blizzard, and the CEO of Xbox, which is a funny title, Phil Spencer, told Bloomberg, quote, "We're actively working today, not only alone, but talking to other partners who'd also like to see more choice for how they monetize on the phone. They have plans to make an app store, an Xbox app store, potentially. And it sounds like they might be leveraging the technology that Activision Blizzard initially started working on years ago. They might take some of that work, move it forward, and create the Xbox App Store, which would probably be some web app or something.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know. I think the word is like charge somewhere between 20 and 10% of a cut instead of 30%. So they'd be the cheaper store.
So basically the Apple, like when you make less than $1 million, 15% deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be Apple in this way, right?
Everybody's got that sweet, sweet Apple envy.
Yeah. Man, $69 billion to get Activision Blizzard. I bet they were looking through all the little IP inside that company for $69 billion. They're picking through everything. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, right? It's I'm not going to bore everybody, but I love to read history books. You can look at my Goodreads account. And I read one a couple years ago about the guy who started Levi's jeans. What a brilliant guy. Who the hell wants to dig and try to find gold? I mean, we've all played the Oregon Trail. I still have dysentery.
Yeah.
Sell them the shit they need, the jeans, the pickaxes. Apple's like, I had to be honest, I still think the App Store makes a lot of sense for small developers, as we're going extinct at a rate that hasn't been seen since the dinosaurs. But it's neither here nor there. It's really not terrible if you can play within their sandbox. Sometimes they make these crazy ass decisions, and I worry that if like Microsoft adopts this, which you could argue they kind of already have with the Xbox, right? Are we just going to be living in a universe where independent developers are basically sharecroppers for these insert House Targaryen and House what's the one the guy gets killed? Stark, right? They all get killed. But, yeah. I mean, they all die. It's Game of Thrones, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm staring at this computer, wondering why there are so many strange limitations on this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Well,
it's all, and it's not, you said the Xbox, but it's also the Windows App Store. It's not as bad, but it's the same.
Okay, but I mean, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also the WebOS App Store. Actually, the WebOS App Store was very open. Pour one out. Oh, since we're totally off topic.
Yeah.
Do you have a beverage nearby to pour out?
Sure. I got it's just a glass of water, but
Okay. My son comes home from his coding camp. He does a couple times a week. And he says, Dad, with a very serious, as though, he's a traffic cop that just saw me Tokyo drifting down I-95. Dad, why don't we have Minecraft the Java version? Oh, yeah. He looks me dead in the eyes, says, the Java version you can program yourself, and I like Java. I almost had a heart attack out of pure joy. I think Duke, maybe his hand came out of the grave for a second.
Oh, Duke. This one's for you.
Pour one out. These kids, man, everything old is new. And sure enough, Microsoft is more than happy to charge you, again, for the same game, just the Java version.
Well, they figured it out. What's happened, because my kids have said something similar, is the Bedrock version's all monetized and kind of locked down, but there's still an active community of modders and skinners and world builders on the Java version. And so all of the community innovation is happening on the Java version.
Where on the old Java one.
Yeah. And so, my kids too are playing more of the Java version than they do the Bedrock edition. A lot.
See
more.
That? You come for the coding at Tech News, you get dad stories.
That's right. While we're still on, if you will indulge for a moment.
Okay.
Yeah. While we are still on the Microsoft subject, why don't we talk a little .NET 8?
Yes.
We kind of missed it because a lot has been going on, but seems pretty sweet.
It seems impressive. They've definitely focused on, well, let's get the blue elephant out of the room real quick. So easy configuration for specific services. And what's the example they give you? A bunch of Azure services.
Yeah.
I'm going to take another W on this one. It's all about Azure.
Yeah.
Hear what they say. Azure all day long. And yeah, it's actually, although I will say Azure, I find sort of a pain to configure, but I rarely have to do it. So I wouldn't mind something a little easier. They got some UTF-8 improvements. For those who don't know, UTF-8 is kind of a pain in the ass in .NET if you do it incorrectly, I guess. Frozen dictionaries and other related types. So these are basically what they sound like, but they're effectively read-only. So they're write once, read-only. For literally performance reasons, right? My good old Cocoa developers will know an NS array is a lot faster than an NS mutable array for the obvious reasons of, being read-only. Or it's actually not read-only, right? It's you create it, you write it, and then you can't modify it. So they added a random.shuffle. They added this whole shuffle like subname space to random.
Hey, all right.
I was a little confused because usually Microsoft's tech announcements are good. I felt like there was a little bit of marketing jazz hands on this one, where it's like it's better for ML, but they didn't explain why.
But they got it in there.
They got it in there. They got the buzzword. So I'm just gonna assume they're telling the truth. Here's one I'm kind of skeptical of. .NET Aspire, which is like a new web framework that is supposed to, well, we could read it, right? It's an opinionated cloud-ready stack for building observable, production-ready, distributed applications, blah, 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 blah. So it's a collection of NuGet packages that it's like Rails, right? But like not the same patterns as Rails. I'm curious as to how much traction this will get, because I will tell you that the .NET developers I know doing web and cloud stuff, you will pull their MVC, .NET MVC from their cold dead hands.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but right there in one of their first examples, Builder, add Azure Service Bus. You can go ahead and add all the Azure services as one-liners. Because I should point out too, I'm not just kidding here. This thing seems very focused on being basically a quick way to develop kind of like focused web applications, or they call them cloud applications. I'm not sure what the difference is. That you deploy to Azure. So if you're a .NET person, tell me if that's interesting to you. I mean, they literally advertise that the Aspire components simplify working with Azure. It feels very, would you like to be locked in our blue garden? I don't know. I'm curious what you think about that, Chris, because doesn't it feel a little embrace extendy?
It kind of feels like they're trying to create the ultimate end-to-end solution for Microsoft developers that are developing on the Microsoft platform for enterprise that use Microsoft technologies. And they're
You
not
said Microsoft a lot.
I know, right? Because it's
Right.
it's like if you and you know these people, you've probably had clients like this where their shop, their entire world, their whole technology focus is Microsoft. You know, they're using Exchange, they're using Active Directory, everything's in .NET, they're deploying on SharePoint or whatever. You know, like these types of shops. I think this is great for them. It does feel like with .NET 8 in particular, and maybe it's just because of all the examples, and maybe it's the combination of all the examples with the language choices, and I mean actual like not .NET language, but the language in the
But
announcements.
marketing.
Yeah. It really does feel like this is the Azure of choice of language for all Azure developers.
Yeah, I'll do some field research because actually they, as I've mentioned before, they have a campus down here in Tampa. And let me tell you, until I moved here, I did not realize how just effective Microsoft salesmen and dev relations people can be. They're here, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're convincing startups that .NET's the way to go, left and right.
Oh, yeah.
And they're doing it with just a shit ton of free Azure credits. So I know a few people I could talk to about this that would watch. They probably have been in the beta for like 4 years. So
Tailscale.com/coder. Go over there, get 100 devices, and you also get like 3 sub accounts. And you get a great VPN. Tailscale.com/coder. Another lawsuit going on, the old Google versus Epic. You remember this battle that's going on between Apple and Epic and Google and Epic. Well, it came out in court testimony that Google employees, including the CEO, Sundar Pichai, have purposely enabled the auto-delete option for internal chats to keep information out of the courtroom. The judge of the case called Google's act of destroying evidence, quote, a frontal assault on the fair administration of justice, and that it, quote, undercuts due process, and said, quote, deeply troubling, and called it, quote, the most serious and disturbing evidence I have ever seen in my decade on the bench with respect to a party intentionally suppressing relevant evidence.
that's what you want when you go to court. You want the judge to, on the record, openly say that you've done something so outrageous that they're actually shocked.
And the judge also threatened to, quote, get to the bottom of who's responsible, but I mean...
Oh, you also want the judge doing his own investigation, too. That's great.
Also interesting, the judge has ordered both companies to start discussing a potential settlement, which neither of them has been willing to do so far, and the judge said it's time to just calm down and start talking settlements here because this is going to get ugly.
So that's like in kindergarten, where the teacher's like, okay, boys, I've had enough of your bullshit.
Yeah.
Shake hands, say you're sorry.
It turns out that the courts have gotten hip to the fact that auto-delete isn't a default, and that for most chats, they thought they were being real clever with the auto-delete.
Well, you remember, they kind of learned this lesson in 2002, right,
Yeah.
with Jeffrey Skilling over at Enron. Oh, we just routinely burn and shred a bunch of our documents. You do what? Yeah. For those who don't know, he and a number of other executives spent a lot of time in federal prison. So
now, while we have documents that have come out and revealed interesting little tidbits, turns out there is maybe a little bit more context, maybe, just to some of the information we heard coming out during the OpenAI crazy weekend. You remember during all of this, there was some discussion that maybe Sam had stepped out and was trying to solicit investment from some Saudi investors for an AI chip company. And one of the hypotheses at the time was that the board was upset about that. I seem to recall this.
I could understand why they'd be upset.
Well, here's a little more detail. So it turns out Sam Altman led a seed financing round in 2008 for this AI chip company. It's called Rain. And then he himself personally personally invested $1 million into this chip company. And then after he did that, he convinced the OpenAI board to invest $51 million into the company. Now, they haven't received that money as far as I know, but a bit of a conflict of interest there. And once again, here we find Sam with a bit of a conflict of interest because remember, Sam also is one of the founders of WorldCoin, which is a scam shitcoin that is supposed to save us all from AI identity theft while he's selling AI tools. Rain has also received a seed investment from a venture unit of the Chinese search engine Baidu, which didn't really raise any concerns, but then once Sam started flirting with the Saudis, it, quote, attracted significant concerns.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Apparently, Rain's initial chips are based on the RISC-V open source architecture, and Rain claims they aim to provide a chip capable of both training machine algorithms and running them once they're ready for deployment.
There's a lot of smoke around the RISC-V stuff. That's what Chris Latner was doing for a while too.
Yeah, although their funding's running a little tight. As
isn't everybody's saying.
Yeah. This is a wild story. So Sam invests in this company. He helps them. He helps them in 2008 raise funds. Then he invests $1 million. Then later convinces OpenAI to invest $51 million into a company he has a stake in. There's a lot of questions around Sam, man, that just even with all of this didn't get asked. Just it seems like a big conflict of interest, both with the WorldCoin stuff and with this Rain AI stuff.
Yeah, there's going to be a really good book to buy on Audible about this one.
I hope so. I think this podcast is it, buddy. Like nobody else is really covering this angle of it. Somebody's going to have to just cut this all together because...
See, this is the interesting part, though. Like the stuff with the salacious allegations and the stuff about him not getting along with by the way, the guy from Quora, seriously? Although apparently that guy's like really mean. Don't mess with me, dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just a poor boy from Florida. He's got his finger in quite a few pies. And on the one hand, if he really had no equity, which seems to be basically true, right, when this all went down, when this all started, and if his own board was, let's say, putting up a lot of resistance, I kind of, my inner entrepreneur is kind of like, what are you talking about? What do you mean slow down? But if he was doing this stuff, like, remember their comment, wasn't their comment a lack of candor?
Yeah.
So is this like, did he tell them that he wanted to do this?
Who knows?
Like come clean? Or was this like something he did and got caught?
Maybe when he reached out to the Saudis, that raised some red flags and then they found out. It's all speculation at this point.
Yeah, but everybody's reaching out to the Saudis now. I mean, right? I mean, listen to Professor Galloway. He's always talking about the kingdom.
They just hosted COP27. They just hosted the climate summit.
Yeah, that's where the money is.
Yeah, come on.
I'm also curious, like this Rain company doesn't seem to be getting any coverage. But from the little we've been able to find, if what is being said about them or what they say about themselves is true, that's a serious, everybody's trying to make their own chips right now, right? This could be a contender.
Yeah, and maybe OpenAI should invest in it.
Right, maybe he's like, I got to say, like, whatever you think
he might be right.
Right, whatever you think of Sam Altman, he doesn't seem like a dummy to me. The man is...
a psychopath, maybe, but not a dummy.
Well, it's the Valley. It's table stakes. Aunt Kara has a book coming out. I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty glorious.
So I think there was just some leadership changes at Rain once the ties to the Saudis came out. Once that became public, they did like a leadership change. So I'm going to start keeping my eye on it a little bit. Just kind of see where this all goes. It's a fascinating... I'll put what links we do have in the show notes if people are interested and want to...
Yeah, the whole... Okay, so can we play my favorite game?
Yeah, what do you got?
We're going to the Verge's headlines.
Oh, God. Oh, man, The Verge has been so bad recently.
Well, they just did massive layoffs. Vox, their parent company, just did a shit ton.
Yeah,
of
you're right, yeah.
So I think this isn't them being bad. I think this is...
Okay, so top story, where are all the robot trucks?
Which is really a backhanded way to bitch slap Elon Musk because we hate him for some reason. Eve brings energy monitoring to a smart thing. Okay.
No, dude. Their next top story is a smart plug gets energy monitoring. Dude, that's not a big deal.
It is a device.
Okay, but
right.
that's the top story on The Verge after Are the Robot Trucks?
I'm like an abused spouse at this point. I will even if the flowers are wilted and smell like the gas station, I will take them.
All right.
Spotify layoff 17%. Great.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes sense. Perfect. OpenAI COO thinks AI for business is overhyped. Again, we've been saying that for months.
It is interesting to hear them cover something anti-AI, but it's one person's opinion, dude. It's not like an actual damning thing.
Yeah, it's like they interviewed a guy and
yeah.
Tesla warns. So far, we have 5 top stories. 2 out of 5 are anti-Elon.
Yeah.
And the next one is ridiculous space lasers.
Well, and space lasers probably has some anti-Elon thing in it too.
Right. I don't understand exactly what happened to these guys. I mean, I know things are tight.
Yeah.
I feel like you and I should take a challenge here. Maybe we'll get Wes too, as long as he doesn't bring any closure. We go to our local cities and we go to like the startup meetups. I bet we could each find at least 3 interesting companies. They may not be successful, right? They probably won't be because most startups fail, but that are more interesting than most of this stuff.
Dude, we must have some in the audience.
I bet we do. I bet we don't even have to leave our bunkers, right? We could just be like, right. You know what? Write us in.
Yeah. Coder.show/contact.
Actually, boost us in. Pay to play. Let's go.
Let's boost it in. The show needs the support. Boy, next year's looking bad. Also, let's take a moment and thank our members. That's another great way to support the show. CoderQA.co. You get the Coderlies when they come out. You support the show directly. And you get an ad-free version, which we always appreciate. And you get the warm fuzzies of not only the member-exclusive content, but the support. CoderQA.co or Jupiter.party for all of the shows. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the rain stuff. But we'd like to hear your takes, too. I know something else I want to put out there. We had one booster touch on this week, but I'd like to gauge people's interest in our coverage of the AI stories. And so let us know. Too much coverage, more coverage, less coverage. You could boost in about that, too. If you'd like to boost in, just go get a new podcast app. That's kind of the funnest way to do it because there's a whole new ecosystem of podcasts with all kinds of cool features. Podcastapps.com. But if you don't want to switch apps yet, actually, I'm going to tell you there's a new way. I've told you about Albi before and the web. You know what? There's even an easier way I realized. Now that Strike is available kind of around the world in at least 36 countries, you can top off on Strike and then go to Fountain FM's website and boost from their website. They'll just put up a QR code. You don't need a new podcast app. You don't need Albi. You don't need to go to the index. It's really easy. I'll put a link in the show notes to both those. Strike is a great app. And now they're available like all around the world. And then you can send a message with their web form and support the show. And with that, we start with our baller boost that came in from our podcast this week with 89,000 sats. This is so cool. I've already been sharing this around this morning. He says, hello, Chris and Mike. I stumbled upon an amazing combination of self-hosted AI and Nix called Nixified AI. It's at nixified.ai. It's completely open source, and you can run both a typical ChatGPT-like model and Stable Diffusion models in web interfaces on your local LAN. I can't believe this is real. This looks so great. I'll put a link to this in the notes. Yeah. I know you think I'm overhyped on Nix, but I want to make a prediction here on the show right now. I think it's going to take years to play out because this stuff always takes way longer than it should. I think over time, you're going to see your FreeNAS type appliances, your pfSense type distros, and your purpose-built things for like, this is going to be a Docker container platform that'll have like an app store on it where you can deploy a bunch of apps. More and more over the next 5 years, they're all going to be Nix-based. I had a conversation with a hardware developer. I might have shared it with you. I can't remember, but he told me they were building a piece of hardware that they want to put at a point-of-sales terminal. And so it needs to be really reliable. Like they're putting 2 motherboards in this thing so it can fail over. Like they're really trying to think about reliability. And they started with Debian, and it was okay-ish. But then when they needed to do mass updates and push them out, they started having problems. So then they started trying different distributions, including Arch and things like Fedora and Silverblue and all that kind of stuff. And the last thing they tried was Nix because it seemed really complicated. but it had totally solved their problems. And now they're basing all of these hardware boxes around Nix because of the way they can manage deployments, because of the way they can define a configuration file, ship that configuration file out, have it reproducibly build. If they build it in a certain way in a Nix box in their test environment, they can send those files out to somebody and it'll build exactly the same way on their environment. That kind of stuff, it just leads to a higher quality product. And so like Nixify.ai, I think, is an example of if something's going to be created today of like a true NAS or pfSense type thing where it's a GUI or whatever on top of a bunch of tools underneath, more and more they're going to be using Nix. And I really think it's worth people's time out there. If you're a Linux administrator, if you're in the Linux sysadmin business, I think it's worth your time to invest a weekend into just seeing how hard it is to pick up Nix. And if it's in your wheelhouse even a little bit, I really think you should go all in and study it, because mark my words, 4 or 5 years from now, it's just going to be the trend. But thank you, our podcast, for sending that in. Obviously, I'm very excited about that. He knows how to get me going. I appreciate the support, too. Jordan Bravo sends in 44,444 sats. That's like a lot of ducks or something.
Things are looking up for all but duck.
It's across 2 booths. He says, Mike, you mentioned that you were having trouble buying domain names anonymously. Well, there's actually still ways to do so. For example, Namecheap will allow you to buy domains with Bitcoin. Oh, I had no idea. You can combine that with an anonymous email service. And he says you'd have yourself a totally non-KYC to purchase domain names. And he says also that he was sorry to hear about my browser woes. But he does recommend I try Brave. Despite the company dabbling in shite coinery, they still make a better browser than any of the spyware that Google churns out. He says, for regarding your eyes when they wander to macOS when dealing with frustrating issues on Linux, we've been there. All of us have. You got to stay strong, brother. Like you said, Apple will only rug you eventually. That is so true. They will. And you know what? I'm mitigating it a little bit. The shameful thing is I'm using Edge. And if I'm willing to use Edge, I could probably just use Brave. I think you've gotten through to me, Jordan Bravo. Thank you.
That's a brave choice.
I'm going to give it a go. Rotted Mood comes in with 40,000 sats and just says boost. Thank you, Rotted Mood. We always appreciate the quick support. You don't always have to have an eloquent or thought-provoking message. We just also appreciate the support. Mick Zip comes in, or MCZP, 25,000 sats. He says, keep the OpenAI coverage. It seems to be the only informed source of news on this front for me. Everywhere else is a ton of spin or speculation. Keep up the great work, fellas. Yeah, or hype, or fear porn. I tell you what, the media loves the narrative of this is going to change society or civilization. They love to throw in it's moving very fast. And then the trifecta is we're in a race against China and other nations, and whoever gets to technology X first will have economic supremacy. And that is, you can take those broad points, and that is 95% of the AI coverage out there, is they just look at it through those 3 lenses. I find it obnoxious. John A. comes in with 25,000 sats and says, cheers. Cheers to you, John A. Thank you very much for the support. Tampa Tech Trekkie comes in with 5,000 sats using Podverse. Says, I've been a listener since 2012. Oh! Huh.
You're doing a good job.
I remember explicitly because I was listening to the episode JavaScript is Not Assembly, and it was at the dawn of the JavaScript framework epoch. This show has been my favorite weekly podcast for over a decade. It's helped me peek my head over the cubicle wall in other frameworks and languages. I really appreciate the podcast. So don't suddenly end it like you did in episode 375, Gray Heavens.
Low blow.
Havens. That was a shocker that evening. Anyways, love the show. Well, you know what, Tampa Tech Trekkie? With support like yours, we'll continue on despite the adpocalypse. Hopefully. Mr. Borkender comes in with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cents. You know it. That's a Spaceballs boost.
So the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the stupidest combination I ever heard in my life.
And he says, hello, thanks for the great show and predictions about the state of the tech market. It helped me not to be taken by surprise and avoid anxiety. We do like to hear that. Thank you, Mr. Borkender. That is our intention when we talk about the economic stuff. It's not meant to be fearful. It's meant to just give you our perspective, so that way you could just have multiple points of information on a topic so you can make the best decision possible. Some people maybe choose to get freaked out by it, but I hope others choose to take action or to just disregard it and say, I don't find that argument valid. Either way, it's fine. Magnolia Mayhem comes in, 4,011 sats. Using the podcast index. He says, have you considered Falcon? It's incredibly Spartan. It does mean fewer things to fail. So, could be worth a try. Falcon. Yes, I did not consider the Falcon browser. God, I forgot how many browsers there are. God. You just think of the world in Chrome and Firefox. But there's actually a crap ton of browsers out there. Most of them are all based on Chrome or Firefox, but...
that's true.
Yeah. He goes on to say, we're kind of moving in a scary direction. It's just a skip and a jump from here to a situation where we have a pre-revolution French-style laws where there is a law A that tells you do thing, you'll go to jail, and law B that says if you don't do the same thing, you'll go to jail. It's probably going to push us all to mainly smaller AIs that different groups produce depending on what side they're associated with. So yeah, I think Chris is on it. Well, thank you. Yeah, more community AIs for sure. That's definitely a trend we're seeing. I even want a JB community one, not because of any political bias, but because I just want to train it against, ideally transcripts. It would be kind of cool if we could just go to like a Jupyter search and say, when did Mike first say, or say this about this, or when was Swift mentioned in the show every time, and just boom, 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 boom. It would just know all of that. Or what were the guys? Yeah. What was the guy's first take when Apple launched the App Store? You could ask it those types of questions, and it could do in episode blah blah blah. Mike and Chris reacted to the announcement of the App Store as, things like that.
Yay, App Store.
Yeah. I'm not so sure. Magnolia Mayhem, thank you for the boost. Scott comes in with 5,000 sats, no message though, appreciate it. And Takairo, which I always mess up, comes in with Spaceballs boost number 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, that's amazing. I've got the same combination on my luggage.
Regarding your issues with browsers, one thing that stood out to me is the keychain unlock functionality could be set up to unlock at login. So yeah, I kind of solved for the keychain issue because the issue is my machine auto logs in as part of an automation system that powers it up. So the thing that was causing my keychain prompt to come up, which would cause Edge to crap its pants and Chrome to crap its pants if I didn't unlock the keychain before they were launched properly, was Nextcloud client. And so I just removed the Nextcloud client from starting to boot. And now I just launch it later manually when I need it. So that was sort of a really crappy workaround. It's not good. I'm not proud of it because I want that syncing and I want that stuff backed up. But, I was sick and tired of not being able to get my work done. So...
Isn't that how they get you?
Yeah, very much so. I feel bad about it, actually. But maybe I'll try Brave and I'll feel better about myself. We had 11 boosters this week. Thank you, everybody. We stacked 262,245 sats.
This is the way.
That is the way. Appreciate the support. Please do boost in if you'd like to support the show directly and this individual production, or become a member at coderqa.co. Oh, man, we're getting to the end, and I just remembered I wanted to totally destroy you on the Star Trek versus Babylon 5 debate.
Yes, well, it seems like the shadows did not help you this time.
Yeah. All right, well, boost in. Let us know, in your opinion, dear listener, which is the stronger franchise, Star Trek or Babylon 5? And try to put a little bit of reason in there. It's fine. You don't have to completely come up with all the reasons, but I'd like to know. Because a certain someone, not me, but somebody, has suggested that Babylon 5 is actually the superior franchise, which I just have not been able to forgive. It was like 3 weeks ago, and it's been chewing away at me.
We have been fighting about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. So I will say, though, right, I get to pick which Star Trek.
Oh, come on.
And you know where I'm where I'm going.
That's not fair. I might, you know what, though? The worst part is I still might be able to win if you just look at ratings. So I don't know.
All right, let's see. Now, I will say, if we're going to be fair, though, I wonder if you'd agree with this. We'll have a little pregame here. DS9 is probably the closest equivalent to Babylon 5, right? They're kind of the same in a lot of ways.
That would be, that'd be interesting to like compare the first couple of seasons of Babylon 5 versus DS9 or something. I wonder if that would be a fair way to do it.
I was going to use Discovery, but you can't count the first season because it's actually good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think DS9 is a more fair comparison, though.
Well, it is
space
the same, right?
station,
It's
the
a
space
space
station.
station.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're like isolated and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But Chris, Babylon 5 has Londo.
That is true.
I mean, he's glorious.
Mm-hmm. And they have those cool spider ships. And I always liked that portal effect that the jump, the gate that they use to go through. That always looks really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Although I think the Bajoran wormhole looks cooler. So
yeah, but the Bajoran wormhole gets real weird when Cisco becomes like the Muhammad of the Bajorans.
It becomes a plot device, is what it does.
Yeah.
Is solve problems for writers. I will admit that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Quark's bar. You ever notice that bar seems to miraculously become larger?
Yeah. Well, until it's time for Vic Fontaine, and then Quark doesn't get any airtime. But don't give me.
Oh, Vic Fontaine. Yeah.
All right, you got any?
Well, maybe that should be our holiday special.
Maybe. All right. You got anywhere you want to send the good people before we get out of here?
Go to DominicM.com, and if you have spare CPU cycles that you can somehow get to my MacBook, please do.
Send them over there wirelessly, perhaps. Maybe through Thunderbolt. I don't know. You can find everything we talked about today at coder.show/547. Links to our Matrix chat, which goes all week long, but is especially great during our live show. That's also linked over there, as well as our RSS feed and our contact page. We do the show live on Mondays if you'd like to join us. We have that in your local time at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar, but it's noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. If that makes it easier at jblive.tv. All right, thank you so much for tuning this week's episode. We really appreciate you listening or sharing the show with somebody. And thanks so much. We'll see you right back here next week. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate you. Okay. Title time. Now, I will end the title bot here momentarily, and then we all have to go vote. Okay, I'm releasing the title hounds. Boom. Buy a better Mac. Apple's deliberated development.
I literally have one in the cart right now because so I didn't say this on the air. So I forgot that my bank got acquired.
Oh,
since
God.
My last System 76 purchase. And for whatever reason, I remember the first time you ever buy from them, you have to do that stupid thing where you go into your checking or into your debit card account and put the code in.
Oh, vaguely. Yeah.
Apparently I didn't do that in time.
Of course.
And those Threadrippers are supply constrained. But yeah, I'm just thinking it's definitely worth it because Alderon's willing to pay. I hate that. I was looking at you can't even upgrade the studios.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate buying a machine because if I can sell back this one for almost $2,000. So with tax, and amazingly, they're not giving me a small business discount on this for some reason. Which I'm a little pissed
Maybe
off
the
at.
discounts are out right now.
It's
there are no discounts.
Chris, it's not that the discount's gone. It's how we feel about the discounts. That's the problem. So it's going to be $6,400, roughly $6,433. Yeah, but
it
might be worth it, assuming I can actually get something done.
Yeah.
But it can never be upgraded. Oh,
I know.
It's just so bad.
Well, it's professional.
And it's a laptop. Ugh.
I put in the slow and the infuriating implying Xcode. I also kind of like advent of layoffs. Although I don't know if we want layoffs in the title. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
I like
maybe mean to our folks who actually got laid off too.
Yeah.
That are listening.
Yeah. I like Saudi shitcoin chips, but I don't want shitcoin in there either. But
I don't want Saudi in it. It'll get flagged.
You're probably right.
Or we'll end up meeting the bone
All right,
saw.
so that leaves the slow and the infuriating.
And the infuriating.
Those are good titles, though. But
are we due a Coderly anytime soon?
Yeah. That's what's we're due a quarterly, which we thought we'd do I thought we'd do like a holiday one, and then we got to do a double. We got to cover the 25th and the 1st, so we should probably start stacking.
So why don't we do a
quarterly next week, and then
just double up the next 2 weeks. I guess we're gonna have to.
I guess will that cover us? So if we do,
No, we need another one.
Yeah,
because we need 3 extra.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Unless we did another one tomorrow.
Or we do one like no, that won't work.
Or we just do the quarterly late.
And then do a double on the 11th, do a double on the 18th.
Right, and then we just don't deliver the quarterly until after New Year's.
Yeah. Sort of a sucky position to be in, but we're just crammed up. And the other thing to consider, too, is with the quarterly, is Drew's got a bunch of doubles he's got to edit, and he's got to also then try to take time off around the holidays. So we probably should just focus on doing the show. So that way we're not putting more stuff on his plate around the holidays. And then we do one early in the new year. All right. Well, we'll coordinate more. But yeah, maybe
coordinate more. I mean, I guess for now we just plan on the double on the 11th, and then we'll see what Drew's availability is like.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Mr. Dominic.
All right. I'm going back to Xcode. Bye, Z's.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us, chat room. Always fun hanging out with you, watching, listening, whatever it is you do. Don't forget, you can always catch the full version, the edited version, with a little cleanup. It's got the full ads in there. It's got the full sound, where things will be a little better mixed. So if you missed any of it, it'll be out on Wednesday morning, our time. That's it for me. Next live stream, I got lots I'm doing this week. Tons of stuff going on. Gets really busy around the holidays. But the next live stream will be Sunday. The same time, same channel, just on Sunday. Thank you for making it. See you next time.
Look out now, boys. Are you ready to do the rigmarole? Yeah, man. Well, go on where I told you. Do like I told you. Because everything is home cooked. Look out now. Here we go. Watch it. 1, 2, 3, 4.